Hello everybody. So today I want to start working on my Bowsprit platform project. The original Bowsprit platform is made with teak. I decided to go with IPE, which seemed to be a cost-effective alternative. It's supposed to be very durable, very hardwood, well suited for a marine environment. As you can see here, I have my planks of IPE, and the plan is to transform those 4 planks into this Bowsprit platform. And the nice thing is I can use the old Bowsprit platform as a template for the new one, so that's very cool. So in the video you'll hear me make several references to the Bowsprit, parts that straddle the Bowsprit, which is this. This is the Bowsprit. And it starts back there at those 2 pieces of wood that come up vertically. Those are called the Samson post. It extends out here past the bow, goes through that slot in the bow, and goes all the way out there at the end where it's kind of rounded. And at the very end you'll see it's kind of a brass collar that goes over that rounded part. But that turnbuckle, that's for the forestay. It stabilizes the mast from the bow. You can see it hooks right there onto that collar that's mounted over the bowsprit and goes all the way up to the mast. I also make references to the anchor roller. Well, this is the anchor roller, and see how the anchor comes up through this stainless steel anchor road chafe guard, and when I deploy the anchor it's going to drop straight down and the chain is going to ride over that, so it just helps protect the wood around it. I hope that gives you a better idea of some of the terms I'm referencing in the video, especially for the non-boating people, or maybe people who have a sailboat that doesn't have a bowsprit. And the bowsprit on chopsticks is actually longer than most. I measured it from the tip of the bow right here to the end of the bowsprit. It's about 7 feet. If I didn't have a bowsprit, that forestay cable would be mounted more inside the deck here. By putting the bowsprit on and mounting the forestay all the way out here, I can have that much more sail area. And of course, more sail area means I can catch more wind, and being able to catch more wind means that chopsticks can move through the water more efficiently. Okay, so now here's a really good example of a sailboat. This is actually kind of like a tall ship that has a bowsprit, but no bowsprit platform. It has that netting, that webbing, which I believe is called a widow's nest. So you're not going to actually walk out on the bowsprit or the spar itself. You're going to climb across the matrix on that widow's nest if you need to get out and do anything to the forestay. Now here's a good example of a sailboat that has a much smaller bowsprit than chopsticks, and it's really just a platform that juts out from the tip of the bow right there. Here's a really good example of a sailboat that doesn't have a bowsprit at all. You can see the forestay mounts to the very edge of the bow. Nice comparison and contrast. The first things to do is going to be remove this pulley, which I'm going to replace. I think anyways, the pulley looks old and worn. And this is used to route the furling line from my head sail all the way back to the cockpit. Next thing was to take out the stainless steel screws that hold the knees, which are really just some stainless steel guards. Okay, so I read online, if you cut an IPE, you want to use a carbide tipped saw blade. I already had a carbide tip blade, but it was old and kind of worn. I went and bought a brand new 50 tooth 10-inch blade. And this blade is cutting like butter so far. I'm still going to have to get a router bit and route the end so it's rounded. Must have quadruple checked my measurements. I was a little nervous cutting it because each board cost about over $65, $70. I've got these pieces of IPE that I had kind of ripped lengthwise. When I cut them, it had kind of just a coarse, you know, a sharp edge on it. You can kind of see that. And so one of the things I did is I had to buy an 1/8 inch round over bit. And I just used the router to put this round over on. It's a nice smooth edge. And this is the edge that it came with. It was a nice rounded edge, so it's got the same exact edge, which is really nice. So, you know, the other things I thought might be best off to do is just to kind of go with the grain and not against it when I'm routing it. Measured out the cross members. Where these 4 holes are is one of the straddles on the bowsprit. Here is where the next one is. And this is where the actual platform secures to the bowsprit. Here's the 3rd one. Here's the 4th one. Okay, so as I'm going to use this for my template on spacing for the boards, you can see these lighter spots. This is where the bowsprit platform sat on the straddles that mount to the bowsprit. You can see it stretching across here and here. And I want to make sure the cross members I'm going to glue on and fasten will be in the same exact spot, because as I drill through the top of the bowsprit down through the cross members, they're going to screw into, hopefully match up exactly with the old holes. If not, I'll just use new holes. But in any event, I want to make sure that what I do with the spacing on the cross members aligns with the bits of wood that straddle the bowsprit. So what I'm doing is I'm using this shrink wrap tape. And I'm lining up this edge with the, I guess, the outer edge of where my cross member will be. So I'll know as I'm laying these on top, and these are basically covering up most of this board, I'll still have a visual perspective on where to put the cross members. And this shrink wrap tape is sticky stuff. It sticks to anything. So as you can see, now I have a nice visual perspective on where to lay the cross members. Okay, so the thought is I'll probably mark a line on the wood, and then I'll use some of the super blend glue that I have, and I'll clamp them down. Clamped on both sides. I stretched some boards that I'm going to use, and I hit a spare one across just to really clamp it down real nice. But with these last boards, these outer boards, which are probably going to be trimmed at least starting up to here and following the contour, there's really not much of this overlapping to glue it onto. Not much here. Here it's a little more substantial because the board's going to end right here. Here it's much more substantial that I can glue it onto. But otherwise, there's really not much to fasten these boards to these cross members. So what I did was, I put these marks in. I'm going to put dowel pins in. And I've already done it to this first board right here. You can see I have this, it's called Joint Mate. So now I'm going to do this board. I'm going to set it up, use this joint mate, drill the holes, and also glue and tap in the pegs. Okay, so as you can see, I have 7 holes. They're not spaced in any particular way, just according partly to how the cross members fall, but they're all pretty much dead center. And now I'm using Tight Blonde 3 glue. It's waterproof for interior exterior. I watched a video on gluing IPE, and this is something that was recommended. I'm just going to pour a little glue in each hole. Well, first I'm going to take my little marker. I'm going to mark a halfway point on the dowel pins so I know how far to knock them in. I'm just kind of guesstimating. That one's okay. There we go. Okay, so I have the dowel pins in, glued. I'm going to let this glue dry. I've already kind of done this one, and then tomorrow I'll drill the holes in the edges of these boards, and the edges of this board. As you can see, I drew a line across the board so I know, how to match the dowel pins, and then I can drill the holes, pour some glue in, and join them. Now I'm just gonna, since the board would normally face this, I'm gonna put it like this. Line up my marks. Okay, so as you can see, I've lined up the marks so I know the placement of the board. Plus I have an approximate idea where the dowel pins are actually supposed to go. clamp these together. Alright, so I believe, as you can see, the boards appear to be pretty flush with each other. Came together pretty good. And this is really looking neat. I'm excited. Time to take the clamps off. I'm sure it'll hold well. And let's do the other side. Yeah, so it looks good. Nice and flush. I think it's going to look really nice. Okay. Now let's spin her around. This Ipe is actually pretty heavy wood, so this Bowsprit has a little bit of weight to it. Bowsprit platform. All right, well, there she is, pegged, glued, and clamped. So I'm kind of finding as I remove the glue, and I'm not trying to be too aggressive because I am going to sand this down. If I lay this chisel down flat, and this is a pretty new chisel, so it's got a nice sharp edge, and if I just kind of edge into it a little bit at a time, it comes up fairly easy. Okay, so now what I've done is I've taken the old Bowsprit platform, I've laid it on top of the old one so I can use a pencil to etch in the lines, as it will be a template. So so I can get the exact same shape. I think I've got it lined up as perfectly as I can get it. Okay, so as you can probably see, the line I etched out with pencil as I use the old Bowsprit pulpit for a template. Basic shape. Okay, so as you can see, I cut the holes for the stainless steel Anchor Road chafe guard inserts. I've already edged. I took my router and put a nice rounded edge on the facing side. I'm going to put a nice rounded edge on this back side. And you can see it's got kind of a sharp corner on there now. When I'm done, it'll have a rounded edge like that. Where I'm at with the Bowsprit platform. I have sanded. I have a little bit more sanding to go just to kind of make sure the edges all around are nice and smooth, and get it prepped for putting on the Penafin. And so I decided, I had some scraps, so I decided to cut these pieces in an attempt to make it, and also to try and make it very similar to the previous Bowsprit platform. Fill these in. So I cut all these pieces, kind of custom cut them. Still have to round the edges a little bit with a sander. And so this is what we'll have. I'd almost like at some point to see about getting a stainless steel cover for this, but that'll be down the road. Sand all these up. I think what I'm going to do to fasten them in is I'm going to get some epoxy, like some JB Weld epoxy, and put them in like that. Okay, so I guess it'd be on the starboard side. I used JB Weld for each of these small pieces that basically go on top of the cross member. That's going to sit on those straddles for the bowsprit. So here's a JB Weld that I use. Here's a little pallet that I had to mix up the two components. And of course I had my 4 clamps that I put on here. So next side I'll more than likely do the same thing. And then once I do that, this thing will be ready to oil. Put the Penafin on. Then I can mount the stainless steel brackets that go in here that are basically a chafe guard for the where the anchor rod would come down and go through to the bow roller. I've only got one anchor though right now, so. Okay, well, I think this project has really come along. I'm pretty proud of myself for what I've accomplished with it and how it's turned out. I've taken the clamps off of these other pieces that I use JB weld to fasten. So I'm going to do these 4 remaining pieces. One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull them each out, wipe them down, just to make sure if there's any dust on them, I get it off. So I have a nice clean surface for the JB weld to adhere to. Okay, so it's morning. Came out to take the clamps off the rest of these little spacers I put in here. And they're all looking really good. A couple spots where I'm going to try and just use a chisel to take out some of this extra JB weld, but these things are not moving and I am really happy. I have a stainless steel chafe guards in for where the anchor rod goes through to the bow rollers, and wow, I think this looks terrific. Can't wait to get it oiled up and mount her on the boat and see how she looks. I am applying the Pennapin right now, and just look at the difference. Okay, so I'm applying the Pennapin oil right now to the back of the bowsprit. I've already applied it to the front. Just want to show you how much it just brings out the green of the wood. I think it just looks really beautiful. mounted the bowsprit platform onto the bowsprit. I used some sealant to adhere it, the bottom of the bowsprit platform, to the little pieces of wood that straddle this bowsprit. Clamped them down, and now I am drilling my holes. I went and bought some new. Well, I bought this so I can cut new wood plugs. Interested in seeing how that's going to work. And I bought about, well, I needed 16. I ended up buying about 25 of these. Number 12 by 2.5 inch sheet metal stainless steel screws, which are the exact same thing that was already on there. So, alright, so I'm going to countersink the rest of these holes and see if I can put the screws in. Okay, first screw's been driven in. I'm driving these other three. I bought a number 3 Phillips head bit, and I'm using my impact driver, which is just make a quick work of it. Here's a nice picture of the bowsprit platform as it's completely installed on the bowsprit itself. I think it turned out nice and it looks really good. Okay, so as you can see, the bowsprit platform and the pulpit have been installed.